Life is a journey of choices. Some choices are easy, some are not. But when you're facing a fork in the road, it can be very difficult to decide which path to take. Some of you might be facing this fork in the road. Sometimes the roads are clear because you might be faced with only two options, such as, should I quit my job? Should I stay? Should I move or should I stay? Should I leave this relationship or should I stay? While some of you might be stuck at the fork of the road because maybe there's this fog, this heaviness that's hiding the paths available to you so that you can really see the way forward. I have a client who is experiencing the same fork in the road. So I asked, what if you had 1 year to live? This is when things started getting really interesting because the question was an invitation to begin thinking about their future in a very different way. So what I'm going to do in this video is to just share some insights with you from that conversation that you might find very useful as you navigate the stuck in limbo and lack of clarity, hard to decide phase of your life. Welcome to the Monday Message. My name is Francis. The Monday Message is all about bite-sized nuggets to inspire you to think deeper about your life, to go deeper in your healing journey so that you can gain clarity and so that you can disrupt the patterns that are holding you back so you can live your desired life with more peace, more joy, more balance, wholeness, and alignment. Some of us think like being at a crossroads is like a really bad thing. Like we just hate being at a crossroad. And although, it doesn't always feel so good, but being at a crossroads isn't as bad as you think. Although I try to stay clear of labeling things as bad or good. I really applaud you for being thoughtful about your decisions. For those of you who are just really being thoughtful about your decisions. For those of you who are really just taking your time and trying your best to be intentional. And for those of you who really can't see the path, there's a reason for that. Let me know if this resonates with you at all, whether you are at the fork in the road and there's two decisions to make, or you're at the fork of the road and you can't even see the path. It might be because you're trying to make it fit someone else's standard. So what do I mean by this? So the matrix programming, I always mention this because it's such a huge factor in how we decide to show up and how we live our lives. But the matrix programming has created this false Rubiks Cube of what it means to live a life that feels good or quote unquote successful. It says grind harder, hustle harder, wake up at 4 a.m., take your supplements, make more money, get more things, accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. Have the perfect this and the perfect that. And this is what it looks like. My God. Just saying out loud sounds exhausting. This Rubik's Cube is really similar to the hamster wheel of this present day life. And if your choices don't fall into those parameters, then it doesn't meet this social standard, this social ladder that we must climb. This could be why seeing the path might not be clear enough or the decision feels harder to make. One of the things that my client struggled with is what it meant to be fiscally responsible, what it meant to show up as someone that their partner needed them to be, and that they didn't want to make the same mistakes as they've done in the past. I really get that. I do. Making those decisions at the fork in the road gets harder when you haven't developed your own standard way of living. But what happens if you haven't developed your own standard way of living, of showing up in the world? You fall prey to looking for what it means and feels and looks from the outside. Then you try to merge that with yourself, with your own, and then it begins to feel inauthentic. And that makes the decision harder to make, makes the path harder to see. When you're making decisions from the matrix programming, you're not making the decision from your own intuition or your inner wisdom. So I asked them, what would it be like if you started to make decisions, not from the mind, as most of us do, most humans, not from societal standards, but from your own heart? What if you made decisions not from what feels safe, but what brings you peace? Because truth be told, safety doesn't always equate to peace. And as we dug a little deeper, as you know, my motto is always depth, because change can only happen through depth. I was a little uncomfortable at first about asking them this question, but I wouldn't be serving them if I didn't do what made me even feel uncomfortable or scared to ask. I said to them, what if you only had 1 year left to live? How would you do things differently with a decision that you're trying to make? How would you do things differently with your partner? What are the things that you would do to bring more joy into your life? How would you show up? If this path is unclear to you, then what would be the first thing that you would say, do, or how would you be knowing that you had 1 year left to live? The question, I kid you not, really hit home for my client. There was this long pause because, as you can imagine, you're sitting there envisioning your own mortality and experiencing all the associated feelings that comes with that. It's not something to take lightly. And you won't believe what happened next. The decision that was so hard for them to make, they miraculously made it right there on the spot without any hesitation. Then what came next was beautiful. They said, I'd be more relaxed. I'd strive for less. I'd have more fun. I'd play and do things like ride my bike. And I thought that was amazing because I'm all about reconnecting with your inner child, both the one that has been wounded and the one that just wants to play more. Because that's what brings balance and wholeness into our lives, is when we connect with our inner child. When we don't connect with our inner child, that inner child wreaks havoc into our lives and causes a lot of chaos and dysfunction. So I let them sit for a moment, experiencing those visuals and the feelings, of course, allowing what needed to unfold before I pose the next question. The question you can ask for yourself, in fact, I hope you ask for yourself, what's stopping you from doing those things now? The answer that came next is quite common. My client said, money. This is valid. If your basic needs are not being met, then it's incredibly difficult to move from that place to another state of being. There's an actual name for this process, and what we're going to dive into is what that is. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In order for us to reach self-actualization, we need to move up this hierarchy of needs. And self-actualization is just a fancy psychological term for becoming all that we desire to be. So what I'm going to do now is just show you this graph. And as you look at this graph, I want you to imagine where you are on this graph, because this helps you to make sense of why it might be hard to figure out what your purpose is. Why do I feel so stuck? I get questions like, how can I be more creative? How can I tap into my creativity? What's getting in the way of me being the best version of myself? So if you take a look at the hierarchy of needs, Maslow says that you need to first be able to provide yourself with psychological needs. These are just the basics: food, water, shelter, clothing, breathing, sleep. This is just on a basic level. You don't need a luxury penthouse or a $400 Whole Foods bill. But what Maslow is saying is this needs to be fulfilled before anything else. If this is not fulfilled, then achieving anything else is going to be a challenge. So once that level has been fulfilled, what happens is you then move to the next level, which is safety and security. This relates to your health, work, maybe the things that you own, family, and social ability. So this says that I need financial security. My well-being needs to be safeguarded. And once that is fulfilled, then you can move towards the next level. So that's kind of where my client is, right? My client is where I need financial security before I move to the next step. I get that. This is all going to come full circle after I go through these needs. The next level, let's say that your physical needs are being met. Safety and security is not an issue. We're going to go to the next level, love and belongingness. This refers to the human emotional need for interpersonal relationships, connectedness, and community. Often I hear a lot about I'm on this healing journey alone. And I do believe that growth requires some form of isolation, but I also equally believe that healing does not need to happen alone. In fact, it shouldn't be. Having a support system throughout this process is really going to help accelerate the process for you. So examples of this would be just friendships, right? Developing intimacy, trust, acceptance, receiving and giving love. Of course, as a child, this is the thing that we all need. And if this was not given to us, then it disrupts our sense of safety, where a lot of us are, right? And I talk about the hurt inner child all of the time, the wounded inner child. So once this part is fulfilled, let's say you have 1 or 2 close friends, you have a bit of a support system, maybe by a professional or by other friends. And once this is fulfilled, you can move to the next level, self-esteem. This is huge for a lot of my clients. A lot of people in general. I believe what makes life hard for most people is the lack of self-esteem and this disconnection of feeling worthy. Not feeling worthy really truly interrupts your ability to create and stick to your boundaries, for example. It dictates the kinds of relationships that you're willing to tolerate and so forth. So Maslow says this is categorized into 2 categories. The first one is the esteem that you have for yourself. This includes dignity, independence, and being able to achieve mastery. The second category is the desire for reputation or respect from others, like status or prestige. This whole level brings about the human desire to be accepted and valued by people around us, while also giving us the opportunity to contribute in some shape or form. Sometimes people will join hobby clubs, right? Because that gives you a bit of a purpose, some sort of camaraderie, and it allows you to contribute to something other than yourself. Now, this top level, as you can see, is the highest level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is where we realize our potential, self-actualization. Here we have self-fulfillment. This is where we purposely seek personal, and I'll add spiritual growth. And this is where we desire to have really meaningful experiences. So for example, some people could have a really strong desire to be a parent, to volunteer, maybe to own something of their own, to travel. Whereas for others, it could be to create something or even to be able to be in the best physical shape of their lives. At the self-actualization stage, that level, Maslow believed that only a small percentage of people actually made it to this stage. And I believe that reason that stage is so hard to reach is because we really have to go through deep programming to even get on the healing journey. You know, I always talk about like deprogramming from the matrix, because once you sort of eliminate and remove some of those false narratives, you can finally clear the clutter so you can really see clearly, oh, these are the things that I really need to focus on my healing journey, because there's so many distractions out there. It's hard to tap into, okay, where do I go next? What do I heal first? I've heard that often from clients. They're like, I don't know what to heal first. And I'm like, which wound is the loudest, right? Let's go there. And part of this healing journey is being on this path to trust and meet ourselves on this healing path over and over again at different stages of the shedding process. Maslow also said on this path that people will have varied preferences. So for example, you know, my need for travel begets my need for a 9-to-5 in the house, right? It ain't happening. Whereas for someone else, their need to have a house and a 9-to-5 begets traveling. So it's not going to be the same for any of us. It's going to look different. It's going to be different. And that's because we all have an individual blueprint, right? I can't force my blueprint on yours, and you can't force your blueprint on mine. Let's wrap this up. Let's connect the dots. I share this with you all because some of you might be wondering where to start. You might be beating yourself up about where you are in life because you're stuck on this crossroads, and maybe you've been stuck on this crossroads for months, years. And the difficulty just doesn't lie in the decision alone, but in also getting very clear about your needs and figuring out how you can achieve fulfillment in these stages. And sometimes the fulfillment can just be enough for you to get to the next stage. So for example, I might have to downsize and move in to my parents' basement so that I can save enough money to start my business or to travel for a year without working. So when my client said money, that's where they saw themselves: safety and security, and also being able to provide for their basic needs, food, shelter. But at the same time, I'm going to, always challenge here and there. That's what I'm here for. You don't necessarily need money for a lot of things when it comes to this healing journey. A lot of things are very accessible to us, while we build those reserves. So for example, they don't necessarily need money to ride a bike. I mean, okay, sure, you need money to buy the bike, right? But you can always, go on Craigslist, go to a yard sale, buy something at discounted rate until you can, afford the kind of bike that you want. So there's always workarounds. And it doesn't take money to take a walk in the park and spend time with nature. It doesn't take money to break open a sketch pad, piece of paper, or pencil to draw, to play, to bring more joy into your life through those channels. And this is what I mean about doing inner child work. This is part of it. It's super easy to get really fixated into the adult mode and neglect the meaningful things in life that will inevitably help you to get unstuck and make decisions. This is kind of like a back doorway of getting to where you want to be, because life leaves you breadcrumbs. You don't have to wait for something life-threatening to happen to live your life the way that you want to. You can begin the path. You can begin taking one foot in front of the other to create forward momentum. And like I said, a lot of these things are accessible. And I'm sure, as you're watching this video and as I was mentioning some of these things, other things might have popped up in your mind that you can easily access or make a priority and spend some time cultivating. And here's the interesting part about this. Some of you might be coming from a place of scarcity and fear. And with this chart, you can finally understand why. But keep in mind that to create, there must be a sense of joy somewhere in the equation. I always tell my clients, you cannot hold on and let go. You cannot bring forth the abundance and mindset shift that you crave from a place of scarcity, fear, and grasping. To create a desired life, you must tap into that joy. It doesn't mean in the midst of achieving joy that life doesn't take you for a roller coaster ride, because it does. It just means that when it does, you always return to your foundation, which is joy. Because once joy has been established, it's very hard to be broken. It's because it gets infused into your psyche, your being. It becomes your default state of being once you've cultivated enough. To be able to come from that place means to not be fixated on this fork in the road. But what are the things that I can do to bring more peace, more joy, and play into my life? Money takes care of itself when you tap into that part of your energy and you start to flow. Right now, you're all blocked up. All the energies are blocked, which is blocking your flow. Abraham Hicks says, how can I tap into a state of being that is downstream instead of upstream? Paddling upstream is exhausting. It's like carrying 10 bags of groceries up a hill versus down a hill, which feels like it's moving faster. If there are things that are disrupting your peace, disrupting your joy, it's time to make some tough decisions to separate yourself from those things, at least for the time being, while you're building yourself up. And what I want you to remember next, I say this often, that whatever decision you make is only feedback. There is no right or wrong decisions. There's only, here's the next thing to do. Now that I have this information, I have this data. Okay, this is how I'm feeling by making this decision. Now I have data on my feelings and I have data on the next steps, taking action. Being at a crossroads is beautiful. I know it might not feel that way because it can be very, very frustrating. And so the invitation here is to challenge and reframe what it means to be where you are currently. Being at a crossroads is that tap on your shoulder that lets you know that you're alive and there's much more to life. It's an invitation to go deeper, to find meaning, to revisit the things in your life that might have gone missing, to let go of the things in your life that are no longer necessary for you, that you no longer need. A crossroad is an opening for something bigger, greater, and deeper. You don't have to wait. Trust that the divine, the universe, source, the creator, whomever is co-creating with you, alongside of you, protecting you and leading you. You are not alone. This is an opportunity to begin to trust yourself, because despite the odds, you made it this far here to this moment in time. And we don't want to undervalue that progress. If there's anything that I want my subscribers to take away from this message, is that it's okay to be in the midst of a crossroad. It doesn't make you weak or defective in some way. It doesn't make you like, oh, she don't know what she wants. Because then you look at other people and like, they know exactly where they're going from point A to point B. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows in 10 years, they might look back and say, ugh, damn. All right. Life is not linear. There's no staircase to life. It can be messy sometimes, right? It can have you over here and it can have you over there. And we just have to open ourselves up to the opportunities or the messages that they might be sending us. So this is just an invitation to go deeper than before and to find meaning in in the most unexpected places. Thank you for watching the Monday Message. Let me know if you're on a crossroad and if you're having a hard time making a decision, and if this video has helped you to reframe how you approach that crossroad. As always, I would really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, and share this video with someone that you think might find it useful. And I will see you on the other side of wholeness.